Thornton is in with us. Yes, right, thank you. Over to pedestrian access, and this is something when we first came here we found out how difficult it can be. So over to you.
Hi, I'm a resident of Halland. Next slide, please. And so I just thought I'd put something together on walking around Halland, which I do quite a lot for exercise. So I'm going to cover from this junction at Knoll Lane, round Knoll Lane, up Lewis Road and up the A22 with some pictures. Overall, it's not friendly for young families, elderly, and the infirm or walking round. And it's the only way of accessing the village. As Richard said, maybe I'm not being any dramatic in some conclusions at the end, but there's no footpaths at all through the middle part of it. So, next slide. So this is the Knoll Lane junction in the north. Croxted was mentioned earlier. As you look north from the bus stops, Croxted is just round the corner off on the right, so there's no way to get to it other than walking along the A22, which you do see people doing down to there and the golf club further down. Getting from one bus stop to the other is lethal. You're just round a bend going into the 30, so cars are probably only doing 50 or so going into the village and coming out of it at that point. So some way of getting from one bus stop to the other would certainly be very helpful. Next slide. This is Knoll Lane, very nice country lane. It uses a rat run to avoid the Halland roundabout queues in the morning and evening rush hour. So very much excessive speed. 70 cars an hour was measured when Stavertons were putting their bungalows up, so they got some speed monitoring done on that road. It's not wide enough. There's all the trucks go off to the side and all the edges are collapsing now. So, and in fact, I'm not showing it, there's also flooding down the bottom of the hill most of the time now as well. Lewis Road, towards the, away from the village side, there's no footpath up from Knoll Lane to start with, and then it's a really narrow footpath. Some of it's only about a foot wide these days with either overgrown edges or banks of collapse on it. Edges overgrowing.
It's a really good photo. I mean, the footpath's actually this wide, but the debris just come down and the county council aren't clearing it. And in the recent bad weather, they grit the roads, but they don't grit the pavements. And implicit in all of this is that this bit matters and this bit's not important. And actually, this can make a huge difference to making that bit better. So the whole highway needs to be considered in terms of movement, not just the vehicles. So you spot these things a lot, and it's very disappointing that they neglect the footpath section.
Patrick, can you just go back?
Sorry,
no, that's it. So, next one. Forge roundabout. This was just before they redid the white lines after they resurfaced the road, so it's a lot better marked. Generally, it's fairly easy, I think, to get across the roads there. It's only one carriageway to the island, so and the bus stop, so the access to the forge and to the blacksmith side is fairly good there. Going out of the village, you can't get further. This is towards Black Boys, and the pavements finish after a few hundred yards where the houses stop. And same towards East Hoathly as well. There's footpath about 50 yards. There are footpaths through the woods at the back of the forge to link East Hoathly and Halland, but in the winter are more or less impassable with the mud and trying to get through the water. Next one. So going up the A22, we have the speed camera, one of the, well, it used to be the highest earner in the country. I think it's gone down the queue now, and you can see why cars are speeding up after it. And a lot of complaints from the people on the hill as the vehicles accelerate up from the speed cameras as well, and the houses vibrate from that. Pavements on the left, as Richard said, maybe we can widen it. I've not been very radical in what it is, but the hedges overlap the pavement as well, maybe we should cut back. Next one. This is the A22 past Stavertons. I live just where this speed flasher is, and it's always on, as people say. It's always walking up to it. It's always been flashed from one side or the other. Great, and it's a dangerous bend by Stavertons. The actual access to the hop garden is in fact on this picture here. This is the bend just before Stavertons, and these are the traffic islands, and the access is just in that gap of the hedge by that lorry, in fact, it has a happy chance to be. So not a very good access point to Halland. The next one. I didn't come up with some very radical suggestions, which is even mentioned even more, but why not have average speed cameras along that? I've seen some roads where they do have that, and you can have that right through the village to force cars to stick to 30. But you'd have to do something with Knoll Lane and Lewis Road to stop that just being as a diversion to get around the main A22. We need to somehow get across the bus stops at the Knoll Lane end and improve the pavement so they're actually usable for people to use rather than just single people walking around it. And can we link East Hoathly and Halland themselves and also into Oxford with some sort of all-weather track for both pedestrians and cyclists? That's it.
Thank you very much. I just commend you on this brilliant bit of urban analysis. This is you're doing our job here. This sort of sequence of images and photos. Photos are very powerful to capture these issues, and it's always a real heartbreaking thing that we've completely forgotten how to plan for the primary mode of movement. You're just walking around, crossing the road, walking as two people side by side is almost impossible in certain places now, and it's unbelievable when you think about it that we've built places that you can't walk around in. And school children today then get driven to school because the parents won't let them walk, and then everyone will complain about traffic jams, and we're back in this sort of vicious circle of more and more problems, and then the roads get widened to accommodate for this increase in traffic, and then when the roads get wider it becomes easier to drive, so more people drive, and then we get congested again, and people will tell you that, oh, we had the bypass introduced. We're doing some work in Dorchester at the moment. They had a bypass built in the early 90s. They're now talking about a second bypass because the first one's now clogged up. Where does it stop? And in amongst all of that investment, millions of pounds spent, pavements aren't being given anything. So I think there's a big, easy win in lots of areas, and I think this is a fantastic assessment of these pinch points where things can be done to make a difference. But who pays for it? East Sussex County Council are skint. You're east, aren't you? Not west? Yeah. They said of all the county councils, I think they're one of the worst in terms of budgets for road improvement, and that's pedestrian improvement. It was never on their radar anyway, it would seem. So there's a lot of challenge, but these are things that could happen. So health benefits, social benefits, walking, all of that, it links with the garden scheme and a whole range of issues. So you brought it well. Any questions for Ian?
One's a point of information. The speed camera is the 8th highest earning camera in England. That's on the latest information. And another point, where you've got if you go back, the B2192 to Black Boys, that's a speed watch site that we operate. And since that started in July, for the times we've been looking at it, over 2,000 vehicles have been clocked coming in to Halland, travelling over 35 miles an hour, and the highest one was 65 miles an hour.
I've got a brilliant trick if anyone's getting caught out by speed cameras. They can't find you at all if this happens, right? You look for these things here, and then you look down to that thing just behind the steering wheel that's got the needle, and if it's the same as that or lower, you're safe. It works every time. It's daft, isn't it, highest earners, but people are just whizzing through and not thinking. But the implication of that for pedestrians is, well, where are the pedestrians? What's interesting in your photos, there's very few people walking around.
Oh, yeah.
Because they would rather not. I think that's a big issue. A couple of other hands went up. Yes, lady in the green jacket.
You seem quite dismissive about increasing the footpath from Knoll Lane going up towards Oakfield. Do you realise that the traffic there, let me finish, the traffic is going at 60 and has to reduce to 30, and that is on all 4 approaches. But I do think it's essential that that footpath is increased going up towards Oakfield.
That's this stretch here.
Past Croxted, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made no judgment on whether the pavement should go in or not. I just made the comment that
but to walk, I did walk for a bus
yeah.
on that road.
No, I agree with you.
I think there were a few things here about, I mean, this is an A road, And as Ian said, this Knoll Lane becomes a rat run,
Yeah.
but you could have a quiet lanes initiative
Yeah.
that makes this no longer a rat run. You could put, not bollards, you wouldn't close it to traffic, but you could have very narrow entrances that have rollovers for agricultural vehicles and so on. You could have quiet lane designation for this, which prevents HGV routing and others. It would be access only, essentially walking, cycling, horse riding. But the implication of that is one person's rat run is someone else's. The delays here would get worse, arguably, because you wouldn't be able to use that. So there are always going to be a trade-off here when you reroute the network to benefit one area. The cars may go somewhere else. But if you are then making pedestrian improvements, some of those journeys made by car may not be. They're short journeys. 80% of car journeys are under a mile. It's crazy. So we need to create the alternatives for the short journeys, and then you can start to reduce some of the impact. But we've got ourselves in a position where it's very hard to build our way out of it. It's not possible. So
I just want to point out the 822, like literally underneath the Ireland north there, literally right at the top, yeah, like just there, there's a bend there. Obviously, she just said it's 60. We've been across it for 10 years now, and there's been 3 or 4 traffic incidents just on that bend where they've gone through our hedge because the speed is so high for that bend. We maintain the hedgerows around that, and we have to cut back so you can see the sign, and we still get, we've had a lorry go through, we've had 2 or 3 cars, and we get flip cars coming into our land because of it. I think I definitely agree with your kind of suggestion that it should come down to 30 because, as much as people might ignore it, as I said earlier, it is something we need thinking about because it's dangerous.
okay. This is really important stuff. A neighbourhood plan does not have the power to reduce speed limits in itself. But when we're gathering this sort of process together, these messages are important. And the ambitions of the plan need to reflect things like reduced speed limits, better walking. Neighbourhood planning deals primarily with land use and buildings, so planning permission for things like wider footpaths isn't necessary. So it's quite hard to write planning policy for that. But in your vision and objectives of your plan, this could be a very high priority. And when your plan passes referendum, I'm saying when, be ambitious, you have an enormous amount of community support for those aims and projects. That carries a big amount of weight. Even if the plan itself doesn't deal directly with it, these projects come out and they will start to rise up in importance as a result of this. So we will not disregard transport access movement, even if it's not a core topic of the plan. We'll put it front and centre.
But that feeds back into the second proposal we saw as well. If we're having complaints about the traffic being too fast for ignoring zones, we've got to reduce speed, and that brings that traffic concern down, surely.
It does, yeah, and there are win-wins to be had here. It's interesting, Jonathan talked about the parking on the corner in East Hoadley that causes traffic delays. Well, that's keeping the speeds down, albeit in an ad hoc way.
Yeah.
If you remove all that parking and they whiz around the corner, because they know, actually sightlines, the highway engineers are thinking more differently about sightlines. Reduced visibility results in slower speeds because drivers have to be more cautious. Long forward visibility that we've been building for 20, 30, 50 years is resulting in higher speeds. And Poundbury, love it or loathe it, Prince Charles's model village, has almost zero visibility on most corners. There hasn't been a single serious incident of any sort. So if you have to get right down to second gear and check, interestingly it does work. Not in all situations, but certain areas you can have an impact. So we need to just be careful how we engineer our way out of it as well. Sorry, we got the T.
I have a voice as well, that locals know to go quietly around the corner or safely, but the not locals, gosh, they come around that bend.
And these are the people in your garden, in your land. Yeah.
From our place, our main business is weddings and parties. So you've got 200 people down there for a wedding party to be coming out of the road at 60 miles, and it's travelling at 60 miles an hour. We haven't had any accidents, but also we're in an equestrian centre, so you've got horse, we're unlimited for what horse lorries going in and out. And there's also gyms on site and things like that. So, for them to come out of our junction is really at 60 miles an hour.
Terrible image of a wedding party and the gate crasher comes right over the fence. Okay, so you're just up here. We need to think about Catherine and then...
May I suggest that there's another subgroup of the neighbourhood plan dealing with specifically the issues that this presentation has been about?
I don't think that's the case. The thing we would advise on traffic, transport and so on is not to think of it in isolation. People aren't moving for the sake of it. They're not just getting their cars driving around and going home again. They're going to work, going to school, running errands, doing shopping. So transport is a means to an end. And the problems we've created historically in recent times, the planning profession, is by dealing with it as a problem in itself. And they often figure, well, where are these people going and why? And you can reduce the need to travel, you can consider alternative ways to travel, and when you've done that, maybe the problem isn't as significant as it was at the start. So we're always wary about having a group that deals with transport. I think transport needs to support your other groups, but yes, it does need attention itself. Okay, thank you, and that's a terrific one.